Homer Simpson was just a regular guy, until he wasn't. He was a typical fellow who loved reading and learning about marketing. One day he was at his job at the nuclear power plant when an emergency was called, and he panicked so much that he forgot to escape the workplace. The next thing he knew, he was flying through the air. He suffered severe radiation poisoning after the power plant exploded. This had several negative effects upon his brain, which drastically changed his ability to perform day-to-day functions. The night of the explosion, Homer was dreaming of food, which wasn't anything too out of the ordinary for him, but little did he know this was a side effect of the accident. This was because of the impact the radiation had on his hypothalamus, which meant he couldn't stop thinking about burgers and donuts. If we were to ask Homer to express his newfound feelings towards food, then he might enlighten us with such comments as, "This is because of the damage received to his Broca's area in the left hemisphere of the frontal lobe. The Broca's area is responsible for speech production and governs Homer's ability to express himself. This is a serious issue for Homer as he and others cannot interpret each other as easily as before. Poor Homer." It wasn't long before Homer started to notice that things weren't quite right. Concerned, he rang the doctor and booked an urgent appointment. In his haste to get to the doctor, his cerebellum had a sudden vacation and Homer found himself on the floor. This, in conjunction with the short-circuiting of his primary motor cortex, created significant difficulties for Homer in a task as simple as leaving the house. He couldn't even open the door. In desperation, he punched his way through the door. This may have not been the most appropriate emotional response, and definitely wasn't the home renovation Marge was hoping for. This was due to the malfunction of the amygdala, in which his emotions were completely out of whack. The amygdala is responsible for regulating Homer's responses, but since the explosion, it has gone haywire. This has affected Homer's behavior and choices, which has had an impact on himself and others around him and encourages his insatiable hunger. As Homer was getting into the car, he started to see clones of himself, which, as you can imagine, started him on a drastic and downward mental spiral. This was due to the high amounts of cortisol in his bloodstream, which are being produced by his pituitary gland in partnership with his hypothalamus and adrenal glands. This caused Homer to experience delirium and hallucinations whilst he was driving to the doctor's. And even though he was going insane, he still managed to get to the doctor's all fine. Well, sort of.